My son came through the front door with red eyes and trembling hands. 10 years old, and he already knew what real fear was. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when I saw him standing there, holding a white envelope as if it were poison. "What's wrong, boy?" I dropped the knife on the cutting board and crouched down to his level. My heart was already racing before I even understood why. He didn't answer. He just extended the envelope toward me. His hands shook so much that the paper fluttered in the air. I took the envelope and immediately recognized my wife's handwriting on the address. There was no sender. Only my name written in that handwriting I had known for 15 years. I opened it slowly, feeling that something was wrong. Very wrong. Inside were 3 stapled pages. A medical report. Letterhead from a private clinic I had never heard of. And then I saw the name of the responsible doctor, Dr. Alfonso Monroe. I began to read. The words jumped off the page like punches. Bruises. Poorly healed old fractures. Signs consistent with domestic violence. Patient reports recurring episodes of physical aggression by spouse. Protective measures urgently recommended. My vision blurred for a second. I read it again. And again. It made no sense at all. I looked at my son. He was now leaning against the wall, curled up, as if he expected me to explode. As if he were afraid of me. "Where did you get this?" My voice came out rougher than I intended. Mom dropped it from her bag. I just saw it and picked it up. He started crying. "Daddy, do you hurt Mommy?" The floor disappeared beneath my feet. No. Never. I knelt in front of him and held his shoulders carefully. "Look at me. I would never lay a hand on your mother. You know that." He nodded, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. That damn doubt that should never have been there. I took my son to his room and waited until he stopped crying. I called my wife 3 times. All went straight to voicemail. I sent a message. Nothing. I returned to the kitchen and read the report again. Every line was a carefully constructed lie. I had served 8 years as a Marine. I learned to identify threats. I learned to analyze situations under pressure. And this in my hand was an operation. Someone was setting a trap for me. The question was, why? I went to the office and turned on the computer. I searched the doctor's name. Dr. Alfonso Monroe. Private clinic downtown. Specialist in internal medicine and traumatology. Professional smiling photo. 5-star reviews. Nothing that would raise suspicion at first glance. But I wasn't just anyone. I zoomed in on his photo. Handsome face. Light eyes. Polished smile. That kind of man women instinctively trusted. That kind of man who knew exactly how to use it. I opened another tab and started digging through public records. Impeccable academic background. Worked in 3 different states over the last 10 years. Changed cities every 2 or 3 years. Always opening a new clinic. Always well rated. That bothered me. Established doctors don't hop from city to city unless they have a reason. I kept digging. Found a civil lawsuit filed in another state. Dr. Monroe's name mentioned as a witness in a custody case. Accusations of fraudulent reports. The case was withdrawn before trial. Out-of-court settlement. My stomach turned. I grabbed my phone and called an old friend from my military days. Richard now worked as a private investigator. He answered on the 3rd ring. "I need a favor," I said. "Urgent." I passed all the information I had on Dr. Monroe. Richard promised he would check it out and get back to me within 24 hours. I hung up and stared at the report in front of me. My wife was involved in this. The woman I had shared my life with for 15 years. The mother of my child. She was building a false case against me. The front door opened. I heard her footsteps in the hallway. I folded the report and put it in my pocket. Took a deep breath. When she entered the kitchen, I forced a smile. "Hi. Rough day." She looked away. "Just tired." I watched her every move. How she avoided looking at me. How her hands gripped the strap of her bag. How she quickly checked if the envelope was still there. And then I saw it. The look of panic when she realized something was missing. "Where's the boy?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "In his room. He came home a little upset from school. She nodded and left in a hurry. I heard the bedroom door close. Muffled voices. My son was probably telling her he had handed me the envelope. I stood there in the middle of the kitchen, and a cold rage began to rise from deep in my chest. It wasn't explosive anger. It was the calculated rage I had learned to use on the battlefield. The kind of rage that keeps you focused. Lethal. Someone was trying to destroy my life. And my own wife was part of it. Half an hour later, she came downstairs. Her face was closed. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" She hesitated. Crossed her arms. "About us. About this marriage." "What's wrong with this marriage?" "It's not working. You know that." I knew she was testing the waters. Seeing if I had read the report. Seeing how I would react. Is there something going on I should know about? I kept my voice neutral. She looked away again. "I just think we need some time." Some time. "Maybe it's better if you stay somewhere else for a few days." There it was. The first move. She wanted to take me out of the house. Start building the narrative that I was a threat. "I'm not going anywhere," I said calmly. "This is my home. Our son is here. I will not abandon my child." Something passed in her eyes. Fear. Or maybe just guilt. "You're being difficult." "I'm being a father." She left the kitchen without replying. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay next to her, listening to her breathing, and wondered when everything had fallen apart. When she had decided I was the enemy. And who the hell was this Dr. Monroe who had entered our lives like a cancer? In the early hours, my phone buzzed. A message from Richard. "Found something. I'll call you early tomorrow. It's not good." I stared at the ceiling in the dark. My son had handed me that envelope because he trusted me. Because, even with all the confusion, he knew something was wrong. He gave me the only weapon I needed, information. Now I needed to uncover the whole truth. I needed to dismantle this lie piece by piece. And protect my son from a dirty game he should never have witnessed. In the silence of that early morning, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to counterattack. Whoever was behind this was about to find out that ex-Marines don't give up. And they don't forget. Because when you spend years learning to survive in hostile territory, one thing becomes clear: the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate. And they had just underestimated me. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because what comes next will show how far a father will go to protect his child. Richard called me at 7 in the morning. My wife had already left for work. My son was having breakfast in that heavy silence of someone carrying secrets far too big for his age. "You're gonna want to sit down for this," Richard said on the other end of the line. I went to the office and locked the door. "Go ahead." This Dr. Monroe is a piece of work. I found a pattern. Over the last 10 years, he's been involved in at least 7 contentious divorce cases. Always on the wife's side. Always providing medical reports that proved domestic abuse. My jaw tightened. And in 5 of those cases, the husband lost everything. Custody, house, assets. 2 of them were arrested for violating restraining orders. 1 committed suicide 3 months after the trial. Silence weighed on the line. "There's more," Richard continued. "In every city where he's worked, he's left a trail of destroyed families. And he always walks away clean. Never formally accused of fraud. The lawsuits against him disappear before reaching court. Out-of-court settlements. Witnesses who change their stories. He's too professional for it to be coincidence. He's doing this on purpose. No doubt. And there's another detail. 2 of the ex-wives from those cases vanished from public records after the divorces. No digital trace. No active bank accounts. Nothing. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. He's robbing them too. That's what it looks like. He helps the woman destroy the husband, takes part of the settlement, then discards her as well. He's a predator, man. And your wife just became his next target. I hung up and stared out the window. My wife wasn't evil. I knew that woman. 15 years of marriage, and I knew when she was lying, when she was scared, when she was lost. Whatever Monroe had done, he'd manipulated her somehow. But that didn't change the fact that she had agreed to destroy me. I spent the day making a plan. I installed discreet security cameras in strategic spots around the house. Copied all the passwords of hers I knew. Started monitoring her bank statements. Checked the call history on our family plan. And there it was. Dozens of calls to the same number. All within the last 6 weeks. Some lasted over an hour. I looked up the number. Registered to a clinic. Dr. Monroe's clinic. My wife had been talking to him every day. That afternoon, I followed her. I waited until she left for lunch break and kept a safe distance. She drove to a restaurant downtown. Parked and went inside. 10 minutes later, he showed up. Dr. Alfonso Monroe himself. Impeccable suit. Confident posture. He walked into the restaurant and went straight to her table. Kissed her hand. Smiled that rehearsed smile I'd seen in the photo. I stayed in the car, watching through the glass window. Her body language said it all. Leaning forward. Smiling. Touching his arm. That wasn't just a doctor-patient relationship. She was having an affair with him. The anger came back. But this time it was mixed with something worse. Disappointment. Because part of me still wanted to believe there was a mistake. That she was being forced. That deep down, the woman I loved was still in there somewhere. But there was the truth, right in front of me. She had chosen this. She had chosen to destroy our family. I took pictures. Lots of pictures. Recorded dates and times. Documented everything. They stayed in that restaurant for 2 hours. When they left, he placed his hand on her waist. She rested her head on his shoulder. Then they each went to their cars. I got home before she did. That night, while we were having dinner, I watched my wife pretend everything was normal. She asked about our son's day. Commented on work. Served more food. Acted like nothing was happening. How was your lunch? I asked casually. She didn't hesitate. Grabbed a sandwich at my desk. Too much work piled up. A lie. Smooth. Natural. I just nodded. After our son went to bed, I went to his room. Sat on the edge of his bed. Dad, he whispered in the dark. Are you and Mom getting divorced? The question hit me like a bullet. I don't know, kid. Maybe. Is it my fault? Because of the envelope. I held his small hand. None of this is your fault. You helped me. You were brave. I'm scared. I know. But I'll take care of you. Always. I left the room with a broken heart. My son was paying the price for a game he never asked to play. In the following days, I intensified the surveillance. The cameras caught my wife having whispered conversations on the phone. I saw her print documents and hide them in a folder at the back of the closet. I waited for her to leave and went to check. They were divorce petitions. Already filled out. Request for a restraining order. Petition for sole custody. All based on Dr. Monroe's false report. She was preparing to destroy me legally. But I was preparing too. I went back to following Monroe. Found out where he lived. A luxury apartment in the most expensive part of town. Imported car. A lifestyle that didn't match an average clinic doctor's salary. He was profiting from this. I dug deeper. Found property records under shell companies linked to him. 3 houses. 2 apartments. Stock investments. The guy was rich. Very rich. And then I found something that changed everything. An old newspaper article from another state. 7 years ago. A man had publicly accused Dr. Monroe of destroying his marriage with false reports. The man was arrested 2 days later for violating a court order. Died in prison. Heart attack. Case closed. But the photo of the man caught my attention. There was another person in the background. Partially cut off from the image. A man with sunglasses and a leather jacket. I zoomed in on the photo. Angular face. Scar on the chin. I ran the image through reverse Google search. Result: Louise McMullen. Criminal record. Assault. Extortion. Threats. Twice convicted. On probation. I searched for a connection between Luis and Monroe. Found birth records. They were half-brothers. Same mother. Different fathers. The puzzle began to take shape in my mind. Monroe was the brain. The manipulator. The one who set up the cases. Luis was the muscle. The one who intimidated. The one who silenced anyone who tried to fight back. And together, they had a perfect scheme. I called Richard and gave him all the information. "This is big," he said. "Really big. You need to go to the police." "Not yet. I don't have enough proof. Just connections. I need something concrete." "And how do you plan to get that?" I looked at the fake medical report on my desk. At the photos of their lunch. At all the documents I had gathered. I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to enter enemy territory. That night, I created a fake social media profile. Middle-aged woman. Married. Posted some generic photos. Built a story. Unhappy marriage, controlling husband, looking for help. Then I sent a message to Dr. Monroe's clinic requesting an urgent appointment. The next day, I got a response. Appointment scheduled. Dr. Monroe was available to see me. I smiled to myself. He had no idea what was coming. Meanwhile, at home, my wife kept up the act. Family dinners. Empty conversations. Mechanical goodnight kisses. Every gesture was a lie. Every word, poison disguised as normality. But now I knew the full truth. I knew who Dr. Monroe really was. I knew about his scheme. I knew my wife was just another piece in a much bigger, dirtier game than she could imagine. And most importantly, I knew she was also his victim. In a twisted, sick way, but still a victim. Monroe had seduced her. Manipulated her. Promised her things. And now he was using her to pull off another scam. The difference was that this time, he had picked the wrong target. Because I wasn't like the other men he had destroyed. I was trained for war. And war was exactly what he was going to get. The appointment with Dr. Monroe was scheduled for Thursday at 3 in the afternoon. I had 3 days to prepare. 3 days to build a convincing fake identity. 3 days to turn the hunter into bait. I bought a button-sized voice recorder. Tested it at home. Perfect audio quality. It could pick up conversations up to 6 meters away. I placed it inside the handbag I had bought to complete the disguise. Richard helped me with forged documents. Driver's license. Credit card. All in the name of Jennifer Matthews, the woman I had created online. We practiced the story. Abusive husband. 2 children. Looking for a way out. Needing medical evidence for the divorce. It was the perfect story to lure Monroe. On Tuesday, something happened that changed my plans. I got home early from work and found a strange car in the garage. Black sedan. Tinted windows. I entered slowly through the back door. Voices in the living room. My wife. And a man I didn't know. I hid in the hallway and watched. The man was tall. Broad shoulders. Leather jacket. Scar on his chin. Luis McMullen. He was sitting on my couch as if he owned the place. My wife was in the armchair, arms crossed, tense expression. "You need to speed this up," Luis said. "My brother is getting impatient." "I'm doing what I can. He's not making it easy." "Then make it difficult for him. Create a scene. Give a reason to call the police. We need the protective order active before the end of the month." "It's not that simple." Luis leaned forward. His voice dropped. More threatening. "You know what happens if you don't fulfill your part of the deal. Remember what we talked about, consequences." I saw my wife swallow hard. She was afraid of him. "I'll fix it," she said. "You better. Because Alfonso doesn't like waste. And you already got the advance." Advance. So money was involved. Monroe was paying her. Luis stood. Passed by my wife and stopped at the door. "Next week. I want the guy out of this house." "Understood." She only nodded. I waited until Luis left. Heard his car drive away. Then I entered the living room as if I had just arrived. "Who was that?" I asked, feigning nonchalance. My wife jumped. "No one. A salesman." Another lie. That night, I reviewed the security camera footage. I managed to capture part of the conversation. Not everything, but enough. Luis had made veiled threats. Mentioned other women who did not cooperate. Spoke of accidents. Problems that appeared out of nowhere. He was coercing my wife. Suddenly the situation became clearer. My wife wasn't just an accomplice. She was trapped. Monroe had seduced her, promised things, and now Luis made sure she played her part. If she tried to back out, they would come after her. That should have made me feel pity. It should have softened the anger. But it didn't. Because she had still made choices. She had accepted the money. Had agreed to destroy me. On Wednesday, I went to a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A woman Richard recommended. Specialist in fraud and conspiracy cases. I showed her everything I had gathered. Photos. Recordings. Documents. She reviewed everything in silence. Then she looked up at me. This is solid. But it's not enough for the prosecutor's office to act. You have circumstantial evidence. Connections. But nothing that definitively proves Monroe is forging medical reports or extorting his victims. What do I need then? A confession. From him or someone directly involved in the scheme. Preferably recorded. I'm working on it. She gave me that look lawyers give when they know the client is about to do something dangerous. Be careful. People like that don't like being cornered. I know. On Thursday, I dressed in neutral clothes. Cap, sunglasses. Drove to Dr. Monroe's clinic. The recorder was active in the inside pocket of my coat. I had a second plan. More direct. Riskier. I was going to confront him. Not as Jennifer Matthews. As myself. The receptionist asked me to wait. 15 minutes later, I was called in. I entered his office. Monroe was behind the desk. He stood when he saw me. Extended his hand. Mr. Paya. What a surprise. We didn't have an appointment scheduled. I didn't shake his hand. I just sat. I think we need to talk about my wife. He tilted his head slightly. Your wife? I'm sorry, but you know I can't discuss patient information. Not even when that information is false. His smile wavered for a fraction of a second. Then it returned. I don't know what you're talking about. I placed a copy of the medical report on the desk. This. All lies. And you know it. He picked up the paper. Examined it. This is a legitimate medical document based on clinical examination and the patient's report. If you disagree with the diagnosis, you can request a second opinion. How much are you making from this? He leaned back in his chair. His expression changed. Grew colder. I think it's best if you leave. Not before we talk about Luis McMullen. This time, the reaction was visible. His eyes narrowed. Who? Your brother. The guy who threatens women when they want to quit the plan. The man who ensures you keep operating. Monroe was silent for a long moment. Then he pressed a button under the desk. A silent alarm, probably. You're delusional. And you barged into my office with unfounded accusations. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I stood up slowly. I know your scheme. I know at least 7 cases. I know the families you destroyed. And I know my wife is just another one of your victims. Victim. He smiled. A chilling smile. Your wife sought me out. She wanted an escape. I merely provided the necessary documentation based on what she reported. The documentation is based on lies you helped build. The door opened. A security guard entered. This gentleman was leaving, Monroe said. The guard stepped toward me. I assessed the situation. Not worth escalating. Not yet. I left the office. But I had gotten what I wanted. I had provoked Monroe. Had shown I knew about the scheme. And I had recorded him denying everything, too defensive. It wasn't a confession. But it was something. In the parking lot, I saw the black sedan. Luis was leaning against it, arms crossed. Waiting for me. I stopped 3 meters from him. You're a persistent guy, he said. My brother told me about you. And you're his watchdog. Luis smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Listen. You can do this the easy way or the hard way. The easy way is you sign the papers, give what your wife wants, and move on. The hard way. He left the sentence hanging. The threat was clear. I'm not like the other guys you destroyed, I said. I know. Ex-military. Tough guy. He stepped forward. But you have a son. A 10-year-old son. It'd be a shame if something happened to him. Blood froze in my veins. He had just threatened my son. I took 2 quick steps and was in front of him. Grabbed the collar of his jacket. If you lay a finger on my son, I'll turn you in. Luis didn't seem scared. In fact, he looked satisfied. Assault. Witnesses. He looked up. Parking lot security cameras. You just gave me more evidence for your case. I backed off. He was right. I had fallen into a provocation. Go home, man, Luis said. Hold your son while you still can. I got in the car and drove away. My hands shook on the wheel. Not from fear. From rage. They had crossed the line. Had threatened my son. And that changed everything. It was no longer about proving my innocence. It was about destroying them completely. Ensuring they could never do this to another family. I called Richard. We need a plan B, fast. What happened? I told him about the confrontation. About Luis. About the threat. Richard was silent for a moment. You poked a sleeping tiger with a short stick. I know. But now they know I won't back down. And that will make them make mistakes. Or make them act first. Let them try. I returned home. My wife was in the kitchen. She looked at me and immediately knew something had happened. Where were you? She asked. Talking to your doctor. And your friend Luis. Her face went white. You know what's funny? I continued. You think you're playing them against me. But actually, you're just a disposable piece. When they're done with me, they'll discard you too. Like they did with the others. You don't know anything. I know more than you think. She left the kitchen. Slammed the bedroom door. I checked on my son. He was in his room doing homework. Safe. For now. I sat beside him. Remember when I said I'd take care of you? He nodded. I'm going to need you to trust me in the coming days. No matter what happens. You trust me. I trust you, Dad. That night I didn't sleep. I planned. Calculated. The noose was tightening. But I still had cards to play. And the biggest one was about to be used. On Friday morning I received an anonymous message. Just an address and a time, 10 p.m. It was an abandoned warehouse in the industrial zone. The kind of place where bad things happen. I knew it was a setup. I knew Luis was luring me into an ambush. But I also knew it was my chance to turn the game around. I spent the day preparing. I called Richard and gave him all the information I had. If I don't call by midnight, you take everything to the police. Everything. This is crazy, he said. It's the only way. Then I went to my son's school. I spoke with the principal. Explained that he would need to stay with his grandmother for a few days. Family emergency. She asked questions, but agreed. I picked my son up early. On the way to my mother's house, I explained as little as possible. You'll stay a few days with Grandma. Just until I sort some things out. Is it because of Mom? Yes. Will you come back? I looked at him in the rearview mirror. Those scared eyes split me in two. Always. I promise. I left him safe and returned home. My wife was still at work. Or with Monroe. Either way. I grabbed everything I needed. Voice recorder. Extra phone with GPS active. I shared the location with Richard. A combat knife I'd kept since my service days. And a letter. Addressed to the police. Explaining everything, in case something went wrong. I put the letter in an envelope and left it visible on the kitchen table. At 9 that night my wife arrived. She saw the letter. Read my name on the front. What's this? She asked, voice trembling. Life insurance. If something happens to me, the truth comes out. What are you talking about? I turned to her. For the first time in weeks, I looked into her eyes without disguise. You have a choice now. You can keep working with them and see this end very badly. Or you can tell me the truth. Everything. And maybe we can get out of this. She looked away. You don't understand. Then make me understand. Tears started to run down her face. He said you never really loved me. That I deserved more. That he could give me a better life. And I believed him. I was an idiot and I believed him. He manipulated you. At first, yes. But later I chose to keep going. Because it was easier to believe his lies than face what I'd done. She sat on the couch, burying her face in her hands. And when I tried to stop, Luis showed up. Said I was already too involved. That if I didn't finish the job, they would destroy me too. How much did they pay you? $20,000. $20,000. The price of my destruction. And you spend it? I paid debts you didn't even know existed. Credit cards. Loans. I was sinking and ashamed to tell you. I sat beside her. Didn't touch her. Just stayed there. Alfonso Monroe is a predator. He's been doing this for years. He seduces vulnerable women, convinces them to destroy their husbands, steals what's left and disappears. You would be his next victim. She lifted her eyes. How do you know? Because I investigated. Because unlike you, I didn't give up on us. I fought. Silence weighed between us. What are you going to do now? She asked. I'm going to finish this. Tonight. They're going to hurt you. I know. But I have no choice. Either I end them, or they end me. And you. And they destroy our son in the process. My wife started crying for real now. Deep sobs. I ruined everything. Everything. There's still time to fix some of it. She looked at me. How? I held out my phone. Cole Monroe. Now. And say exactly what I tell you. It took 5 minutes to convince her. 10 more to rehearse what to say. Then she called. On speaker. Monroe answered on the second ring. Hi, darling. That soft, seductive voice made me sick. I need to see you, my wife said. Now. It's urgent. What happened? He knows. He found documents. He's talking about going to the police. Silence on the other end. Then, where are you? At home. He's gone out. But he'll be back soon. Okay. I'll send Luis to pick you up. We need to sort this before it gets worse. No. I'll come to you. Give me the address. Another pause. Longer. Monroe was calculating. All right. But come alone. He gave an address. It wasn't the clinic. It was a house. Probably where he actually lived. We hung up. I looked at my wife. You stay here. Lock every door. Don't answer to anyone. And you. I'm going to have a conversation with your boyfriend. I left the house at 10 p.m. The address Monroe had given was 20 minutes away. Big house. Remote neighborhood. Perfect for someone who doesn't want witnesses. I parked 2 blocks away. Approached on foot. The recorder was on. The phone with GPS shared. Richard was tracking my every move. The house was lit. I saw 2 cars in the driveway. Luis's black sedan and an SUV that was probably Monroe's. I circled the perimeter. Looked for cameras. Found 3. All pointed at the front entrance and garage. The back was blind. I climbed the fence. Crossed the yard. Reached a side window. Looked in. Monroe was in the living room with Luis. They were talking. Monroe looked nervous. Gesturing. Luis just listened with that impassive expression. I waited. 10 minutes later I heard a car arrive. My wife. She had come after all. She wasn't part of the plan. I had told her to stay home. I saw her get out of the car. Walk to the door. Ring the bell. Monroe opened. Smiled. That fake smile. Come in. She went in. I moved back to the window. Now the 3 of them were in the living room. Monroe offered a drink. My wife refused. She was tense. Scared. So Monroe began, "Your husband found out. He has proof. Photos. Recordings. Said he'll turn everything in tomorrow." Monroe exchanged a look with Luis. "That's a problem. You told us he'd never find out. You said it was safe. And it would be. If you had followed the plan right." Monroe stepped closer to her. "But you hesitated. Felt sorry for him. And now everything is threatened." "I did everything you asked." Luis stood. "No. You stalled. And now you'll have to fix it." "How?" "There are ways to make people quiet," Luis said coldly. "Permanently." I watched my wife's face go white. "You're talking about killing him?" "We're talking about protecting our interests," Monroe corrected. "Your husband became a risk. Risks need to be eliminated." My wife took a step back. "No. That wasn't in the deal. You said it was just the divorce. Just the papers." Plans changed. Monroe was no longer smiling. "And you're too involved to step back now." She tried to go for the door. Luis blocked her. Grabbed her arm. Hard. "Let her go," my wife screamed. "Sit. We still have a lot to talk about." That's when I came in. I smashed the window with my elbow. Jumped inside. Glass breaking. Noise. Surprise. Luis released my wife and came at me. Fast. But I was faster. I dodged the first punch. Landed a straight blow to his ribs. He doubled. A knee to the face. Luis went down. Monroe tried to run. I grabbed him by the back of the neck and slammed him against the wall. "It's over," I said. He was gasping. Blood ran from his nose. "You don't know who you're messing with." "I know exactly." I showed the recorder in my pocket. Everything recorded. Every word. The threat. The admission. Monroe went pale. Luis tried to get up. I kicked him back to the floor. "Stay there." I looked at my wife. "Call the police. Now." She hesitated. Then grabbed the phone. Dialed. While we waited, I kept Monroe and Luis controlled. They didn't try anything. They knew it was over. 5 minutes later, sirens. Blue and red lights flooding the room. Police entering through the door my wife had unlocked. "These two," I said, pointing, "are under investigation for fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. I have recorded proof." I handed the recorder to the officer. He listened to part of it. Looked at Monroe and Luis. "You're under arrest." I watched the handcuffs go on. Watched them being led away. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. My wife was leaning against the wall, shaking. I went to her. "You came," I said. "I couldn't let you face it alone. You could have died." "I know." She looked at me. "I ruined everything. But I didn't want you to die because of my mistakes." I didn't answer. I just stood there, looking at the woman I loved and who had betrayed me, feeling anger and relief at the same time. Police lights still flashing outside. And I knew the war wasn't completely over. But at least this battle, I had won. The following months were a blur of testimonies, hearings, and rebuilding. The prosecutor's office took the case with full force. The recordings I had obtained were the key that opened every door. Monroe and Luis were formally charged with conspiracy, extortion, forging medical documents, and fraud in multiple states. The investigation expanded. They found more victims. 7 confirmed cases in the last 10 years. Men who lost everything. Families destroyed. Some never recovered. One had committed suicide. Another was still serving time for violating a court order based on false evidence. Each story I heard made me angrier and more grateful. Angry for what they had done. Grateful that I'd managed to stop it before it reached a point of no return. Monroe tried to negotiate. He offered a plea bargain. Names of others involved in the scheme. Lawyers. Corrupt private investigators. An entire network of people profiting from the destruction of families. The judge accepted part of the deal. Even so, he got 15 years. No possibility of parole before serving 10. Luis received 12 years. Assault. Threats. Complicity. His prior criminal record worked strongly against him. But the hardest part was not seeing them convicted. It was deciding what to do with my wife. She cooperated with the authorities. Testified against Monroe. Admitted everything. The prosecution offered a deal: 2 years probation, community service, mandatory therapy. And she would lose any claim to the marital assets. No alimony. No house. Nothing but a chance to start over from zero. She accepted. The divorce was finalized 6 months after Monroe's arrest. There was no fight. No dispute. She signed everything. Acknowledged she had been wrong. Apologized. Many times. But apologies don't fix 15 years of marriage thrown away. They don't erase the betrayal. They don't give back trust. Still, part of me understood. She had been manipulated. Seduced by empty promises. Coerced when she tried to back out. That doesn't justify her choices. But it explains them. The hardest part was explaining everything to my son. He was 10 years old. Too old for childish lies. Too young to understand the whole complexity of the situation. I sat with him one afternoon, 2 months after it was all over, and told him the truth. Adapted. Simplified. But the truth. Your mother made mistakes. Serious mistakes. She hurt our family. But she was also deceived by bad people. And now she's trying to fix what she can. She won't live with us anymore, he asked. No. But she's still your mother. And you'll be able to see her. Whenever you want. And if I don't want to? The question hit me like a punch. Then you don't have to. Not now. But maybe one day. When you're ready. He thought for a long time. Then said, I want to try. But I'm scared. Scared of what? Of her leaving me again. I held my son. Held him tight. I will never leave you. That I promise. In the months that followed, we established a new routine. Just the two of us. I learned to cook the meals he liked. Helped with homework. Took him to play soccer on weekends. Tried to be both father and mother at the same time. I didn't always succeed. But I always tried. My wife moved to a small apartment on the other side of town. Got a job as a receptionist. Basic salary. Simple life. Started therapy. Twice a week. Visits with our son were supervised at first. She'd arrive. They'd spend a few hours together. Talk. Sometimes he'd cry. Sometimes she'd cry. But little by little, something began to rebuild. Not trust. Not yet. But maybe the start of forgiveness. As for me, I needed therapy too. I discovered that carrying so much anger for so long leaves marks. The therapist helped me process. To separate the person my wife had been from the person she became under Monroe's influence. To understand that forgiving did not mean forgetting or accepting. It meant letting go of the weight. It took time. A long time. A year after Monroe's arrest, I received an unexpected call. It was one of the men Monroe had destroyed. He had seen the news. Read about the case. Wanted to thank me. You did what I couldn't, he said. You fought. And you won. Because of you, that monster won't destroy anyone else. His voice broke. I realized he was crying. And my case? He asked. Is there any chance to reverse my conviction? I gave him the lawyer's contact who had helped me. Talked to her. With the evidence we have now, there's a chance. He thanked me and hung up. That call changed something in me. I realized my fight had not been only for myself. It had been for all those men. For all those families. And that gave meaning to the pain I had endured. 2 years later, my son was turning 12. I organized a small party. A few school friends. Cake. Games. Normal things. My ex-wife asked if she could attend. I hesitated. But my son said he wanted her there. So I agreed. She arrived with a simple gift. A book our son had mentioned wanting. She stayed to the side. Didn't try to draw attention. Just watched him be happy. At the end of the party, when everyone had left, she pulled me aside. Thank you for letting me come. I didn't do it for you. I did it for him. I know. She looked at the floor. I know I will never fix what I broke. I know you will never truly forgive me. And that's okay. I don't deserve forgiveness. It's not about deserving. It's about moving forward. She raised her eyes. There were tears. Did you move on? I thought about the question. 2 years ago, my answer would have been no. I would have been trapped in anger, resentment, revenge. But now? I'm trying, I said. Every day. I'm trying. She nodded. Me too. After she left, I sat on the couch with my son. He was tired. Happy. It had been a good day. Dad, he said, do you think one day we'll be a family again? The question caught me off guard. Not the way it was before. That doesn't come back. But maybe we'll find a new way to be a family. A different way, but good in its own way. I wish things hadn't changed. Me too. But they changed. And we survived. That's something. He rested his head on my shoulder. You're the best dad in the world. I felt my eyes sting. And you're the best son. That night, after he fell asleep, I stayed on the porch looking at the sky. I thought about everything that had happened. The choices I made. The battles I fought. The scars that remained. And I understood something important. Justice is not about vengeance. It's about protecting the ones you love. It's about stopping evil from spreading. It's about having the courage to fight even when everything seems lost. Monroe and Luis were in prison. They wouldn't hurt anyone else. Other men who had been their victims were getting a second chance to clear their names. Families were rebuilding. Slowly. But rebuilding. And my son was safe. Happy. Learning that even when things fall apart, there is always a way to start again. 3 years after the day my son came home trembling with that envelope, I received another call. This time it was from the prosecutor's office. They wanted me to take part in a lecture, speaking about signs of manipulation, about how to spot schemes like Monroe's, about how to protect vulnerable families. I accepted, not because I wanted to relive the pain, but because maybe my story could save someone, could prevent another family from going through what we went through. On the day of the lecture, there were 50 people in the room, men and women. Some had already been victims. Others were simply seeking information. I told my story. I omitted nothing. The betrayal, the fear, the anger, the fight, and the partial redemption that followed. When I finished, a man raised his hand, tears running down his face. I'm going through exactly this right now, he said. My wife accused me of abuse. I have a false medical report. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was alone. I looked at him, saw my reflection from 3 years ago. Desperate, lost, but still fighting. You're not alone, I said. And there's still time to reverse this. But you have to act. Now. After the lecture, I spent hours talking with that man. Gave him the contacts I had. The lawyer. Richard. People who could help. I saw hope return to his eyes. And I understood that this was my new mission. Not to forget what I went through, but to use it to help others. Because in the end, the greatest revenge against people like Monroe is not just seeing them jailed. It's building something good on top of the ruins they left. It's turning pain into purpose. Trauma into strength. Today, I look at my son and see a 13-year-old boy who overcame things no child should face. I see resilience, courage, and love. I look at my ex-wife during the fortnightly visits and see someone trying. Failing at times. But trying. And that's more than I expected 3 years ago. And when I look in the mirror, I see a man who fought. Who didn't give up. Who protected what mattered most. And who learned that true justice is not about destroying your enemies. It's about making sure they never destroy anyone again. If you made it this far, thank you for hearing my story. And if you're going through something similar, know this, you're not alone. There's a way out. There's justice. And there's life after the storm. Don't give up. Never give up. And if this story moved you in some way, subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this need to be told. So others know it's possible to win.